Hello and welcome to Calls. This is the 2022 Tour Championship Initial Research Show. First off, you can probably hear and see that I feel much better than I did Wednesday night. A successful weekend will absolutely help with that. I'll get into that in a little bit. But after roughly 2.5 days of a diet consisting of cough drops and water, I do feel better. Finally got some food in me as well, so we are ready to analyze everything for the ultimate event on the PGA Tour. The top 30 players of the PGA Tour season all gather in Atlanta, Georgia for the Tour Championship at East Lake Golf Course. So we'll have plenty to discuss there. But hopefully you had a successful weekend like I did. I was mentioning a lot, especially on Wednesday night, about Brendan Steele, Victor Hovland, who decided that he was going to start playing his tournament on Sunday. So that was great. But I feel like I had a lot correct this week. And I'm particularly proud of it, especially on a course that had not been played on the PGA Tour. I got a lot of things right. I'm sure I obviously got a couple of things wrong, as I will every week. No one's perfect, but I was wary of Matthew Fitzpatrick. I did not think it was going to be a good Colin Morikawa course. Now, he waited until Sunday to prove it, but boy, his Sunday was bad. I was really high on Brendan Steele after a poor, putrid Thursday. He went really low Friday and Saturday, and that's why I was really high on him, is that one round wasn't going to kill him. Because if it was a cut, a normal cut event, he would have missed the cut and not not provided the value that he did, although his Sunday was pretty poor as well. But John Rahm was really high on. I didn't talk about him much, but he was 10th in my rankings. I was really, really high on Scott Stallings, and he really came through. He was very unique. I had him in almost half of my lineups. That'll tell you exactly how my weekend went. I didn't have enough Patrick Cantlay. I had just enough to, keep me in it. But lineups consisting of Cantlay, Schauffele, Stallings, and Connors really set the table for me, and I had multiple of those types of lineups. So hopefully you had Patrick Cantlay outright and used him a bunch. I hope you listened on Scott Stallings, Corey Connors, John Rahm, all of these players. You avoided Matt Fitzpatrick like I recommended, Morikawa. Terrell hadn't played a little better than I thought he would, but all of these suggestions, again, I try not to be overconfident or come off as arrogant. I am always quick to point out when I get things wrong, but I am particularly proud of this week in a smaller field on a course that had not been seen, how much I got correct, and the DraftKings account sure shows it. But if you had a successful weekend as well, reach out to me, social media, Discord server, in chat tonight. Would love to hear about your success and be able to shout you out as well. But we move on from the BMW to the Tour Championship, so let's get into it. All statistics provided tonight and every night are from FantasyNational.com. It is the best tool out there, bar none. Again, it is what I use to have a very successful BMW Championship. It has anything that you can imagine, lineup generators, ownership projections. It really is the best tool out there. Go check them out. It's well worth your investment. In the description of the video, there are links to my social media, Twitter, Instagram, all these different things, Discord server, Twitch. Twitter is where I post research for the week. I will try to have something tomorrow. Not sure how much I'm going to have to be ready for, but I'll see if I can't get something out there on Twitter. But it's also where I place my betting cards. So if you want to be part of that, want to see some of the research, you can also catch me on Twitch. It's where I do a whole lot of research and prep for the show. So if you want to see a lot of the inner workings for that, give me a follow at the links in the description. And then finally, we're live. Chat's open. Again, I want to hear from you all. How did you all do this week at the BMW? Who are you looking forward to using, or what kind of storylines are you looking at for the Tour Championship? Do you know how many strokes each player starts with? Obviously, I believe Scotty Scheffler's still number one in the Tour standing, so he'll start at -10, work their way down. I'm not exactly sure where everybody stands. So if you do know that, jump in chat, all that good stuff. So let's do our initial research for the 2022 Tour Championship. And we start with Fantasy National. The GCSAA tournament fact sheet is not out yet. However, I did pull last year's off to the side here, and I apologize. Let me get something out of the way. All right, so let me pull up last year's tournament fact sheet for you, or over here to the side. I'm not going to go into it too much. They should have it out tomorrow, but some of the big takeaways. This is a Don Ross design. So we've had 3 Don Ross designs in the past month to month and a half. So we could take a look at that. Again, there are not a lot of Don Ross designs, but something we could take a look at. These greens are exactly Tour average size. There's a little bit of water in play, and we are on Bermuda. So that's all I'm going to get into tonight as far as a GCSAA tournament fact sheet look at East Lake. But we move here to Fantasy National. And like we did last week for the BMW, Fantasy National does not have the Tour Championship in yet, which is fine. BMW just finished a couple hours ago or whatnot. So as far as I understand, no, these are the 30 players that have made it to East Lake. The big question is Cameron Smith. As of now, I am still under the impression he is in the field. I have not seen anything confirming that he is playing, confirming that he's not playing. So I'm going under the assumption that he is going to play. So these are the 30 players that have made it to East Lake. I will do my best to remember to click the favorites as we go along and look at various filters and so on. It'll be a little bit of a shorter show tonight, again with no loaded data in terms of Fantasy National, although tomorrow I will definitely have some research done for the show. And again, I'll try to put that on the Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff in terms of research, but I'll definitely have it for tomorrow. Specifically regarding performance here without the strokes, I think is the best way I'm going to go about it. But anyway, so let's just kind of take a casual look here at some of the players who have been playing very well lately coming into East Lake. Again, we're looking at the last 3 months, the last 36 rounds, just players who have been in fuego lately, really helping their cause. Those players: Rory, Tony Finau, Will Zalatoris, Matt Fitzpatrick, although again this week was very underwhelming by his standards, Xander, Cam Smith, Scotty Scheffler, Sam Burns, and Justin Thomas. No real surprise here. These are the players like Tony Finau's been on an absolute heater. Rory had a poor St. Jude and then comes back and plays well this week. Zalatoris, his first win, etc., etc. I think one of the first things that I want to do is look at Bermuda greens. And honestly, what I'm going to do here, let me pull up another instance of Fantasy National. And I'm going to search for the Tour Championship and get a look at some previous tournament factors. Okay, so Don Ross design. Oh, something I neglected to mention, but here it is. The yardage at 7,350 yards, or at least that's what it was on the GCSA tournament fact sheet last year. So not quite long, but closer to long than short. This is what I really wanted to look at. I knew they were fast, Bermuda, but they have played lightning in some instances. The entirety of 2020 and 2019 was lightning. Now they had 2 rounds lightning and 2 rounds fast last year, so I think it will be prudent to look at fast and lightning Bermuda, depending on how many rounds we can get with that. So I'm going to look at this filter first, and then I have brought up the course breakdown in Fantasy National. So let me take a look at this one particular metric here. We know that we're on Bermuda. Let's see. In the last, we might have to go to a custom date range here. That's convenient. Yeah, let's try that. Actually, let's do 6 months. And then now let's try this. January 1st. And how many rounds do we have on Fast and Lightning Bermuda? Looks like plenty. Yeah, plenty. I mean, you have some players like Tony Finau and Jordan Spieth who have 2 tournaments or whatnot, but let's go ahead and look at this. So since the start of the calendar year, so 1/1/22 forward, your top performers on fast Bermuda greens, fast and lightning Bermuda greens, excuse me. Those players are Cameron Smith, Sepp Straka, Scott Stallings, Sam Burns, Adam Scott, Scotty Scheffler, Hideki, Sungjae, Billy Horschel, and Patrick Cantlay. So again, I'm going to have to do the thing that I was doing last Sunday. So if you see the fingers in the camera shot, I'm just counting to make sure I get 10. So Smith, Straka, Stallings, Burns, Scott, Scheffler, Hideki, Sungjae, Billy Horschel, Patrick Cantlay. Yeah. So it's going to be difficult because this is still based on the full 70 from the BMW, and then I just have to hide for the players that didn't qualify. So there's a look at your top fast and lightning speed Bermuda green putters this calendar year. Let's move on over to the course breakdown via Fantasy National. And what you'll see here is that it is about an average style difficulty course. So the 9th most difficult hole is about 300th over. You go to 10, it's negative 300ths under par. So literally right in between there. And it's pretty convenient that they're both equidistant from par. So it plays right to average. The hardest hole, very long, very tough, par 4 14th, 400 or 520 yards, plays the 2/10 of a shot over par. But you do have, very gettable par 5s. A very short par 5 here. It's a decent eagle chance, but it plays to more than a half a shot under par. You've got the par 5 18th, plays to almost a half shot under par. Not quite the eagle chance, but clearly very easy. Clearly a birdie hole. But you got a fair share of gettable holes. You got a fair share of very difficult holes. It's a great test of golf. It is. It's a really, really good test of golf. And if you are familiar with Sedgefield, the Wyndham, that Don Ross design is only able to hold up to today's technology on the PGA Tour with the severe slope of the greens. Sometimes those greens had anywhere to 3.5 degrees of slope, and that's what the challenge was what the challenge is for the players at the Wyndham. Here, well, you do have some of that. It is a Don Ross design. You have a little bit of water in play, but these greens are fast. They are extremely, extremely fast. Whereas the Wyndham, they're classified as fast Bermuda, but not lightning. So you don't have as much slope on these greens, but they keep it very, very quick, fair but very quick. So there's the difference between Sedgefield and here. And I'm only saying Sedgefield as that's the most recent and picturable image in my mind as far as greens and speeds and all that stuff. So, but a very fair test. You got 10th over par, close to a 10th, 900ths. But on the other side too, I mean, you've got 1500ths, 800ths, 900ths. So a good mix of gettable holes, a good mix of holes where par is a good score. But the course, you can shoot good scores here if you're on top of your game. We move to the strokes gained by shot type. The average top 10 or the top 10 finishers here. It's a ball striking course. It's a ball striking course. If you have your irons dialed in, you're going to score pretty darn well here. You see about a half of a stroke per round on approach. Off the tee is comparable to putting. A little over 300ths here, a little under 300ths here, so very comparable. Around the green is fairly important too, lagging behind the others, but off the tee is fairly close to putting in terms of top 10s. You move to the top 5s. Putting starts to pull away a little bit, but you see just the sheer amount of ball striking over the short game it is. And then for the winners, off the tee really, really takes off in terms of importance. And then, winners are going to be putting well. So it looks like it is more evened out as you move up the leaderboard in terms of the kind of course it is. I think this is quite misleading, as you can see just how important strokes gained off the tee are for winners. And then approach gets mitigated a little bit because the winners are generally making a lot of putts. But we'll move backwards in terms of strokes gained by hole by par. Winners really taking advantage of the par 5s. No difference than the normal PGA Tour event here. Almost double in terms of importance in the par 4s. You move to the top 5s. Again, par 4s are really, really actually catching up to the par 5s fairly quickly. It's the winners the winners where the par 5s really take off away from the par 4s. Now the par 3s have lagged behind in both of these, winners and top 5s. We move to the top 10s, but more even. So as you move up the leaderboard, the par 3s become less important, the par 5s become more important, signifying that you really have to take advantage of the par 5s here. There's your scoring opportunities. No approach shot distribution here. I'm not sure why not, because we do get the shot link data, but no approach shot distribution here. Hole composition, you have 4 par 3s equally distributed, basically. 1 in the 175 to 200, 2 the 200 to 225, and 1 extremely long par 3. You have 2 short par 4s. You have 4 that measure from 400 to 450, 5 from 450 to 500. Then we talked about the long par 4, 520 yards. You've got the short par 5 that plays to more than a half a shot under par. Then the par 5 18th, which is 590 yards, but it's still a gettable hole. Plays to nearly a half shot under par. So 2 par 5s, 1 each, 500, 550, and 550 to 600. A reason why off the tee is pretty important is driving accuracy here. The fairways can get narrow. There's a lot of rough. It's not deep rough, so it's not too penalizing or hard to play out of, but it is difficult to hit fairways here. The layout is generally fast, so you get a lot of run out. It has been very common for guys to have a whole lot of distance here because of how fast and firm they keep the course. And in fact, you'll see that here. I'm just going to cheat, come down here. Average driving distance, 291.5. The average tour event is 282, almost 283. So when you get 8.5 feet more in driving distance, that's a big difference. That's a big difference. So you've got quite a bit of run out, firmness, all that, like I was saying. So accuracy less, distance more. So yes, some of that is guys are just trying to hit it as far as they can, but there is a little bit of that needing to hit the fairway with distance, kind of like what we looked at for Wilmington Country Club. So I can envision some of those driving metrics per se, not the over 7,400, but taking a look at some of the same things. Green and regulation percentage, like you would expect, these are tour average green sizes. This is a roughly average difficulty course. Green and regulation percentage here a little less than 65%. The tour average a little over 65%, but nothing severe that would make you say greens are extremely important or not important at all. Scrambling percentage, players are slightly less successful scrambling here than they are at the average tour event, and that is slightly 57.1 to 57.8, so roughly average. 3 putts per round, surprisingly, at least surprisingly to me, since these greens are so fast, I mean lightning even, 3 putts per round are less here, and quite considerably so. So that can be attributed to procs, I guess. We can look and see what kind of procs numbers are here. The greens aren't massive, so you know that makes a little bit of sense in that regard. But when you think of lightning speed greens, you would think that 3 putts could be an issue. Doesn't seem to be the case here. We talked about the distance. The procs, 26.8, almost 27 here. Average tour event, almost 29. A couple of feet. It's a difference, but nothing too severe. So we'll definitely have to take a look at total procs numbers individually, perhaps from some previous years here at Eastlake, figure out what's going on there. Distance of birdie putts, slightly more in terms of 25 feet plus. Let's see, 4.2 to 5.2, so another 1 percentage point so you got some long birdie putts that are more common here than the average tour event. Let's see, 27.5, 5 to 10. This is right at average, basically, a little bit more. Okay, looks like birdie putts come from much further away here in general, but nothing too extreme. So there's a look at Eastlake from a scorecard, graphical view via Fantasy National. So again, we're going to come back to the home view, main view, strokes gained view. We looked at the putting. There's not a whole lot of Don Ross designs, but we can take a look at a couple. Like I said, we have played Sedgefield. What was the other one that we looked at? Oh, the Rocket Mortgage. Yeah. So it's only 2 tournaments, but they are very, very recent. So we can take a look and see who played those events, who played them well. All right, so in the Rocket Mortgage and Wyndham, your players that made it to Eastlake that played one or both of those events who played fairly well, Tony Finau, Patrick Cantlay, Cameron Young, Sung Jae, Scott Stallings, Will Zalatoris, Aaron Wise, Corey Connors, JT Poston, Max Homa, Billy Horschel. So Stallings and Zalatoris played both. Let's see. I don't remember exactly how well each player played, so I'm just going to click on them. That's the Wyndham. That's the Rocket Mortgage. All right, so the Rocket Mortgage, was the first of the two. Tony Finau was your winner at the Rocket Mortgage. I should have remembered that. I did not. Cantlay has made it here. Cam Young. There's Stallings, a top 10. So there's a good look at the players who played the Rocket Mortgage well, particularly Tony Finau, Patrick Cantlay, Cameron Young. Now you come to the Wyndham. This is where Ji-Hyun Kim won and qualified. So you had Sungjae. Sungjae was really the only top 10 that made it to Eastlake. Interesting. Russell Henley, like Taylor Moore, played well in both of them. Ji-Hyun Kim played well in both of them. Let's see. I mentioned Henley. John Huh? No. So let's take a look at both of those courses. Eastlake. So we'll start with, let's take a look at Sedgefield. Get a review of Sedgefield here. It was short, under 7,200. Remember that. It was more strokes gained approach, par fives. You moved up the leaderboard. Kind of a normal distribution here. The winners really took off in approach and putting in par fives. Okay. And then for the Rocket Mortgage, that is Detroit. So this one is long. You get the 635, par 5, 555, 577, 552. So this one's a little longer than Sedgefield. Also par 72, which you see the similarities here, especially the putting. Putting, top fives. Yeah. Which was really surprising when Tony Finau won, because he's generally not a good putter. Hey, how you doing, Kevin? Thanks for jumping on and watching via Twitch. You have caught me on one of the few shows that I just can't seem to stop coughing. But hope you are doing well. I appreciate it. Hope you've been doing well. How are things going with you? Haven't seen or talked to you in a while. No bowling yet. We've started over at Clarksville for 2 weeks. We've been trying to golf. Yeah. Well, I play a whole lot. We actually have our club championship this weekend, so I've been playing a lot to prepare for that, or prepare as much as I can, because I'm not all that good, but I like to pretend. Got some lessons. Cool. How'd they go? Do you like them? Because golf is fun, but it's also very, very frustrating. Well, you would know, like bowling is too. But we come back to comparing this to Eastlake. Something I just realized. Remember Eastlake, the par threes aren't important at all. Feel like I'm improving. Well, good. Golf is fun. Golf really is fun. Like I said, it can be frustrating, but it's a good way to meet people, get exercise. Really. Are you showing? So this is some of the analytics behind a couple of the specific courses. So the course we're at right now, or for this week, it's the Tour Championship. So the top 30 players from the PGA Tour season have accrued points to come to Eastlake. So this is kind of like the scorecard, yardages, pars, all that. And then this is what are called strokes gained. You have 4 basic, or what I call umbrella stats. Off the tee, how you do driving the golf ball. Strokes gained approach is any shot heading towards the green that's not off the tee. Around the green is your chipping, kind of wedge play. I think it's defined as anything within 30 yards, 30 or 20, I can't remember. And then putting is anything on the green. And what these are showing is this particular course where the players that average top 10 finishes, where they accrue their strokes. So at this course, approach is the most important of the 4. And then when you come to the top 5s, it's even more strokes gained approach. And then the winners, it's off the tee. So this gives you a good idea of how the course plays, where you need to be good, or what part of the game needs to be good to do well here. And then you do the same for strokes gained by hole by par 3s, 4s, 5s. So that's what this is. And then there's more fancy stuff down here. But what I was doing right before you jumped on, and I keep coughing. So there's Eastlake. I was looking at Detroit Golf Club, which is a course designed by the same person who designed Eastlake, which is where we're at. And a lot of times a course architect, a course designer will have like their thing, their stamp on it, on a course, if you will. And a lot of times you can get a good idea of the kind of player that plays well at particular courses based on, where else they've played. So if a guy has played, or if a player has played well at Detroit or at Sedgefield, which is another Don Ross design, that player likes those kind of designs. Now, is that the guarantee that they're going to play well there? No, but it at least gives you the understanding that, hey, they've played well here. In theory, they should play well here, or the opposite. Boy, this player has not played well at those 2 courses at all. Why would he do well here when it's the same architect? That kind of deal. But what I was showing, we were in the winners. And for Eastlake, the par 3s were not important at all. And it's the same here at Detroit. The par 3s, especially for the winners, aren't important at all. So that could be a factor. That could be something we want to look at tomorrow in the Data Dive show, is the lack of importance on par 3s. Let's see, some other things here. Maybe take a look at hole compositions. This one's quite a bit different than Eastlake. Driving accuracy is higher here. Distance is still higher, so that's interesting. We can take a look at Sedgefield real quick again. Let's see, Sedgefield. Now this one's different because it's a shorter par 70. We'll go to the winners. I'm kind of curious. Like, par 3s just seemingly don't feel important at Don Ross designs. Opposite or inverse, par 5s seem very important. I'll go to top 10s just to see. So here at Sedgefield, yeah, I do remember we had a plethora of 400 to 450 yard par 4s. There are 4 here at Eastlake that fall here, 5 in this one, so in terms of similarity there. Accuracy, a little bit higher here. Distance, not so much, so that is going against the trend of the other 2. I forgot to look at the proximity for Detroit, but this one's similar to Eastlake in the sense that proximity here is closer than the average tour event. So interesting there. Let's see. All right. So I'm going to bring it back to Eastlake in case we want to come back and check that. But let's get a feel for some of these other leaderboards, or I mean not leaderboards, some of these other metrics that players performed well. So this was the Don Ross performance. So I've got the Rocket Mortgage and the Wyndham up. Let's see. If we take away the Don Ross design, let's just kind of take a look at strokes gained approach. Again, this is my preferred statistic. I believe that this is the statistic that is most indicative to long-term success on the PGA Tour. I just think it's the most important. So, your top strokes gained approach players in the last 36 rounds. Those players are Tony Finau, Sam Burns, Rory, Will Zalatoris, Scott Stallings, Xander, Cam Smith, Corey Connors, and Tom Hoge. I think that's 10. Finau, Burns, Rory, Zalatoris, Stallings, Xander, Cam Smith, Connors, Hoge, NM, Sungjae. So there's those 10. Okay. One of the reasons I was so high on Corey Connors, Xander, big week this week. Stallings, big week this week. Scheffler, Finau's been on fire. So it makes a whole lot of sense, especially since strokes gained approach is so important here at Eastlake. I'm not sure how much more we're going to get into in terms of Fantasy National, again, because the BMW isn't up yet. Let's see. Anything that I do want to take a look at proximity just real quick, just because we saw that birdie, the distance of birdie putts, the proximity was a little bit closer. Let's see, the scrambling a little less. Oh, the 3 putts per round. That was the big thing. For having fast and lightning speed greens, the 3 putts were awfully low here. So I wanted to see that. Let's take a look at that. Let's just bring in last year's leaderboard just to get a quick look and feel for it. Strokes gained. So, actually, do they have putting? Yeah, let's do this more so. You had more birdie putts the further away you were in relation to average tour. So, do we get a sense of anything here? This is the top 10. Not really. Maybe 5 to 10 feet, but that's pretty shallow in terms of correlation. Yeah. So remember, this is a field of 30. So, 18th is pretty poor. It's below half. Yeah. None here, basically. Absolutely none here. 2025. Not really. So I don't know. Maybe that's just a unique feature here, that 3 putts just aren't that. So maybe the greens are just easy to read, or maybe there's not a lot of slope, or as much slope as I'm remembering. I don't know. Interesting. So I think that's going to be it for Fantasy National. I do have my super duper fancy spreadsheet up here, so let me maximize that up for you. Switch the view. All right. So what I have here, and because this is not a full field, I don't have anything. I don't have Eastlake compared to every other course, but I do have the detail. So from the 3 years that the format changed, this is where, or in 2019, this is where the PGA Tour started implementing that -10 for the leader, -8, 7, so on and so forth. This is where the strokes gained came. So it was all approach last year. Distance surprisingly was not a big factor at all, but yet historically it has been. Very interesting. Greens not so much. That doesn't surprise me, considering these are average green sizes, average difficulty course. Not a lot of surprise there. So eagles gained. That's pretty high for a field of 30 to have 0.04. That's actually fairly high. So if you're getting the eagle on, really there was only one really good eagle chance. So I don't know if we want to focus on one hole, but there is that. Par threes, like we've seen, not important. Par fours, roughly average. If there is a length that matters, it's maybe the 350 to 400, maybe. Par fives, we've seen that as well. Very important. Very important. So, okay. I think that's going to do it for this evening. Again, apologies for that the scratch in my throat. I could not get rid of it. For all the talk of feeling better, and then that happened. So, just a filthy liar, I guess. But do remember, I will be back tomorrow night for the Data Dive show, 9 p.m. Eastern. Again, if you did well this weekend, had Patrick Cantley, or had a lot in DFS, reach out to me on social media, in chat, in the comments of the video. I want to hear about it so I can shout you out, and all that good stuff. Reminder, I'm on Twitch, live on Twitch every day. This is where I do a lot of the research leading in for the shows. I will definitely be digging in to East Lake data tomorrow. Who has played well here. I'm going to try to figure out the strokes, or at least performance without the shots. Don't know how successful I'm going to be, but I'm going to try to get that for you all. All that good stuff. So thanks for bearing with me while I have my coughing fits. So Kevin, thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate it, for jumping on Twitch. Come back, even that you're new to golf. It's be more than happy to explain it. All that good stuff. Don't ever be afraid to ask a question. I'll get into it as best as I can, and hopefully won't go over your head. But as a math nerd, I can do that with the best of them. Go over people's head. But thanks for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. And thanks to everyone else out there that tunes in, watches and listens, comments on shows. I really do appreciate the support for the channel, and I love what I do. So for all of the wagers that you had this past weekend for the BMW, for all of the DFS contests you played this past weekend at the BMW, and until I see you tomorrow night for the Data Dive show, may all your bets be profitable.